gosh.
My video started, Grace. Hi, you guys. Tonight, I'm going to teach you guys a really easy beef stew. Now, I've missed you guys. I have been very sick. My daughter, she's over there, brought me home some crud from school. And of course, she was better in 2 days, and it hit me like a Mack truck. So I still have the voice. I was dressed like this morning to go to the gym, and then I had a lovely day with my friend and one of my favorite chefs, Chef Sharon Sessler. She taught me how to make sourdough bread. Look at these bread loaves that we did today. Are they gorgeous? This one is an olive rosemary loaf, and then this is just a regular loaf. And so I've talked her into doing a video for you guys. It's very involved, I will say that. This is my sourdough that I started today. You can see it's alive, it's alive. And I will probably do something with this in the next day or so. So I'll be making a recipe, maybe pizza, maybe I'll make a loaf, I don't know. But making sourdough bread is technique. That's what it's about. And so people had asked me, what's the big deal about sourdough? It's about, you know, really learning technique. So more to come on this. I've asked her to come on and do a video. She said she would. It's something you don't want to miss. She's amazing. I love her. And she made me an amazing pizza today. We had lunch. We just had a great time. And I haven't even had a shower yet today. Sorry. My hands are clean now. Anyway, so I'm going to put that away. And I'm going to teach you how to do a super easy, it's winter, fall, it's stew, it's easy. You can modify this with whatever you like. I'm going to be adding carrots, celery, onion, garlic, baby portobello mushrooms. If you don't like mushrooms, ditch them. If you don't like carrots, you're trying to do low carb, ditch them. Put whatever you like in it, okay? The whole idea is that it's going to cook for about an hour and a half on low, and I'm using a ceramic enameled cooker. So I'm going to put it in here, and I'm going to set it, and I'm going to forget it. So it's a one-pot meal. It's really easy to do, and you can cater it to the way you like it. So first I'm starting with a chuck roast. Please don't buy stew meat. It's not very good. Buy your own, or have your butcher cut it if you want to. Get a chuck roast. I think that's the most flavorful, and just cut it up. And it's very simple. You're just cutting it into squares, you know? And stew is really, it's a rustic dish. You know, it's a fall dish, it's a winter dish, so it's an imperfect dish. So winter vegetables, if you like them, onions, garlic, those kind of things. I'm gonna be cooking it in red wine. If you don't like red wine, you don't have to use red wine. You can use beef bouillon, beef stock. I'm actually going to do red wine in this French onion soup. I know I'm backwards. I don't want to hear, don't quit giving me pose. I know I'm like backwards on here. I need help with my videoing. I get that. But this is French onion soup. So there's a lot of things you can modify, and I'll be talking about that as we go. But I'm just going to get this meat cut into cubes. And the fatty pieces, if there's anything like majorly fatty, I'm going to trim it off. Like this piece has a lot of fat. But I don't want to get rid of all the fat. Yes, puppy, you're going to eat some fat tonight. Just going to cut them. Rustic, you guys. Don't get all paranoid about it has to be perfect. I just want them in like general chunks. Like this looks a little big, so I'll probably trim that down. Okay? But I had an amazing day, you guys. I was just sitting there watching her make this sourdough bread going, there's so many steps. I mean, you have a starter, you have to feed it. I have to name my sourdough starter. Give me an idea if you have a name for my sourdough starter, because it's like a pet. You have to feed it every week or it dies. So you keep it in your fridge and you feed it. And those of you that want some of it, I'll be able to share that starter with you, because every week when I feed it, you know, I basically am making a new starter. You know, I'm adding pieces to it. So I'll have some to share. But I need a name. So drop it in the post below if you have an idea for my name for my starter. It's my pet starter. It lives in my fridge. But you have to feed it every week. And it's alive, you know? So people that are, I think my sister was telling me, she's like, I had a sourdough starter in my fridge and it's from 1905. And I'm like, how long has it been in there? Oh, it's been in there for 6 months. I'm like, it's dead. You have to feed it. So I know there's a way that you can freeze dry, you can lay it out on parchment, I believe, and you can freeze, or not freeze dry it, you can dehydrate it and then make it into a powder, and then you can just keep it in powder form and then just rehydrate it. I believe that's the way you can keep your sourdough starter if you're not going to be like using it, if you're not making bread. I know when I was on keto, I was like, oh, I couldn't have any bread, so I didn't want any bread around me, but now I'm like the bread queen, and that's why I'm at that gym every day, 5 days a week for like 2 hours so that I can eat bread. Okay, so I've cut my chuck roast up. I'm going to turn my gas burner. I'm going to add a little oil in my pan. Probably like, I want to say about 5 tablespoons. You don't want it to stick, and just kind of wing it. You know, this doesn't come out very fast, so it looks like I'm putting a lot, but I'm really not. What I'm going to do is in this bowl, I'm going to do about 1/4 of a cup of just flour, okay? So again, if you're doing low carb, you could omit this. It won't be as flavorful because the flour is going, I'm going to dredge this in flour and I'm going to saute it in this. The flour is going to thicken the sauce, but I'll tell you about how to do it without flour. If you want to know, just drop me a message below that you're doing keto and you want kind of a modification, and I can kind of let you know. But I'm going to put about 1/4 of a cup of flour in here, and then I'm going to season this. And I like just pepper, and then I'm going to put some salt, just some kosher salt in here, just a little bit. And then I like paprika. And again, if you don't like it, don't add it. You don't have to. You could use whatever you like, you know. My recipes are loose because I want you guys to modify things to the way you and your family like to eat. Okay, so hands are clean. I just kind of mix it in there. I'm going to put the meat, I'm going to dredge it in here. Okay, dredging it means I'm just like tossing it in here very lightly. And I'm gonna use, I need a pot holder. If I sound like I'm out of breath, I am. I'm having a hard time breathing because of my stupid cold that I have here. So I'm gonna dust off the pieces. I'm gonna put them in my pot. And I'm just gonna brown these. And I'm gonna do this in small batches. I don't want to crowd the pan or this meat's gonna steam. And that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking to develop the flavors in this meat, get a nice coating on it, and I'm going to keep transferring it out as I'm doing this. This is a really important step, okay? Again, if you're doing low carb or keto, I can give you some modifications, but if you're not, small. It's 1/4 of a cup in an entire pot of stew. It's not a lot of flour. And again, carrots have a lot of carbs, and potatoes and things like that, so you can omit those as well, or just not use so many. Okay, that's probably enough for my first. I'm going to turn this just so you guys can see it. You have a cold and you're making food. Oh, stop. I'm not feeding you people. I'm feeding my family, and they've all been exposed to my germs, so get over yourself. All right, so I'm going to rinse my hands off. Actually, Grace, can you have me a pair of those gloves over there? See them over there? All right, I need a spoon. So I'm just looking to brown these. As soon as they brown, I'm going to keep repeating the same steps. Thank you, dear. My corner butcher, my friend John, if you didn't see those videos, you need to go on my YouTube channel, Foodie Princess. We did a turkey, a turducken, prime rib, you name it, and he left his gloves here. So I've stolen them, and I'm using them. So I'll use those in between so I don't have to keep going off and cleaning my hands. That's a lot easier to do. But I'm looking to develop the flavors in here. So this stew is going to have carrots, celery, onion, garlic, and fresh herbs. Now, if you don't have fresh herbs, don't have to put them in. You can use dry. Rosemary goes great. Tarragon is great. French thyme, parsley. Yeah, that's what I have in here. So I have tarragon, parsley, rosemary, and thyme. That's what I'm using. And you can use whatever you like. You can use dried. You can use fresh. I just think fresh herbs taste better. It's just my personal opinion. I'm also going to be using red wine. Don't use something expensive. I just have a $2 chuck from Trader Joe's, a cab, but whatever. I'm going to be using some Worcestershire sauce that gives you that umami. I'm going to be using some tomato paste. You want a little bit of tomato paste in there. It richens the sauce up and really adds a nice level of flavor. I'm going to be using, I like to use French onion soup, but you don't have to. I just love the flavor that it adds. You could use like packet of that Lipton stuff. You could do that if you want to. And you're going to want some beef broth, beef stock, something like that, okay? So red wine, stock, French onion soup, combination of all three or of two of them, but you want some liquid. This is going to be cooking slowly for about an hour and a half until the meat is just really tender. Okay, so this is looking good. I'm going to transfer this. I need a bowl. Third one. So again, you're doing this in small batches. And then once I'm done with the meat, I like to saute my onions first before I add the meat back. Again, I think it develops the flavors when you saute your onions. And that's just my trick. If you don't want to do that, you can just dump it all in there. It'll be fine. But I personally think it tastes better. And actually my mushrooms too. If you're going to do mushrooms, I would saute the mushrooms and onions. I'm going to put on my gloves. These are so fun. All right, Dr. Feelgood here. These are a little big. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. And I'm going to add some more oil. Keep adding more oil as you need to. You don't want the meat sticking. Oh my gosh, these are hard to get on. This is why I don't work in a restaurant. Can you imagine? Oh, so much work. You don't have to do this when you're just cooking for your family. All right, I'm just going to add some more oil in there. Keep it lubed up. So I'm going to add some more of my meat and just kind of dust it off. And this is just a dredge of flour, salt and pepper, and some paprika. But if you don't like that, again, don't add it. Just do salt and pepper or whatever you like. You know, cooking is about, modifying these flavors to what you guys like. So never feel intimidated by something. I have a lot of people that tell me they don't like onion, they don't like the texture. And I have a kid in my family who's really particularly sensitive to the texture of onion, but he doesn't mind the flavor. So I suggest that you grate an onion. And you can grate one in a food processor or on like a cheese grater. And what happens is the onion just basically dissolves into liquid. And so you get the great flavor of an onion, but then you don't have that weird texture. So there's ways to work around things if you're having a difficult time with a kid that doesn't like a certain vegetable or whatever. And again, if you're confused or you're needing a swap out, just put a link down below, a message, and I'll get back to you on what I would do to swap something out. If you don't like something that I'm putting in here, say, hey, I don't want to do red wine. What could I do? I'm happy to get back to you. All right. So I'm browning this up. It's almost done. And then I have one more batch to go, and then we'll build our stew. All right. Here's my bowl. There we go. And I just think this step really makes the meat more flavorful and tender. But again, if you want to do this in a crock pot, you could. And just put it in the morning, go to work, and come home, and boom, your dinner's done, right? Who doesn't love that? All right, last bit. And we can get rid of this. All righty. So I hope nobody else got that flu that's going around, or cold, or whatever it is. It is no fun. I had a sweet friend that took care of me this weekend. That was lovely. Made me tea and fed me soup. It's kind of nice when you're a mom. Nobody's there to take care of you when you're sick. So it was really a nice opportunity to have somebody take care of me for a change. But I miss doing my videos. And you guys are so sweet. So many people sent me messages. Hey, I'm praying for you. We miss your videos. Hurry and get well. And I appreciate that. It means a lot to me. So I do these videos. I do them because I love sharing the ideas of food. And I want you guys to feel inspired to feed your families. Okay? All right. I can get rid of these gloves. But look how easy that is. I can get it off my ring. All right. Last batch. So once this is done, we're going to go ahead and start building our flavors with our vegetables. And again, do what you like. I need to add more oil. There we go. Beautiful. My dog's smelling it. He's going, "Arr." And this stew is going to cook slow, and the meat's going to be just tender, fork tender, The broth is going to be really thick. It's going to thicken up. You can always at the end, if it's not thick enough, you can always add a little bit more of a slurry in the bottom with some flour to thicken it up. Or if you don't want to do the flour, you can always add more butter or a little bit of heavy whipping cream. That will also thicken it up. And then return the meat back into it. But I find that it's thick enough. All right. Almost there. All right, so I'm gonna remove the meat. This is the last of my meat. So I did this in about 3 batches, okay? The meat's not cooked. I just got a little bit of a coating on there. Okay, perfect. And there's some flour in the bottom of my pan. So what I wanna do is I wanna release those bits with some red wine. And I'm gonna put about a cup in there, okay? Otherwise, whatever else I'm going to put in here is just going to burn. And I'm going to take a spoon and I'm going to scrape the brown bits. But this is where all the flavor is. It's in this, all these little pieces and brown bits in here. You've got the meat juices, the flour, and this is going to be a thickening agent for your stew. Okay, so you want to scrape that bowl, get all those brown bits, scrape it down. They're all stuck to the side. And I'm going to add more liquid in this. I'm just having a little bit right now. Okay, can you guys see in there? I think you can. Thumbs up. Can you see in there? Hi, Michelle. Hey, Chuck. Okay, that looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start with my onion. So I've got my red wine and my onions in here. And the reason I like to kind of do this at first is because there's not that much liquid in here, and I want to bring this up to a boil, and I want to get these onions soaked in the red wine, and I want them to kind of caramelize a little bit. There's a lot of liquid in there, so they're not going to completely caramelize, but they will get a little bit going on in there. I'm also going to cut my garlic just really rough. I have about 5 cloves of garlic. I like garlic. If you want to do less garlic or no garlic, that's completely up to you. You guys do what you like. I'm just cutting it really thin, and then I'll just chop it. Okay? Move this all the way. Very rustic, very simple. You can mince it if you've got one of those little mincer thingies. Whatever you like. Just drop it in the pot. Very simple. Okay. Ooh, does it smell good? I want to turn this heat up pretty high. These enamel pots get really hot, so you want to watch your heat on them. But for the sake of time for you guys, and I want to kind of get through this as fast as I can, I want to get these going. Just get these heat turned up a little bit. Okay, so I want to get my French onion soup. I'm going to shake that up. And I just like this Pacific brand. It's I got it at Sprouts. It's an organic, it's vegetarian. It's just, you know, it's a sauteed onion base, dried onion, salt, butter. You know, it's all good. But if you don't like that, you don't have to use that. I just think it adds nice flavor. I like everything to have like lots of layers of flavor, but that's just me. I did have some good food when I was in Big Bear this weekend, you guys. Oh my gosh. Even sick, I like the food. So you know when you can hardly taste and you're like, the food is like amazing, you're like, okay, it must be really good. All right, my onions are starting to get really nice and light, almost translucent at this point. And see how red they are? Because they've sucked up the red wine. Beautiful. I'm gonna go ahead and add in my baby bella mushrooms. And I like texture in my beef stew. So I'm just gonna half these. I want the meat to be a certain shape. I want my carrots to be a certain shape. Get what I'm saying? I want it to be kind of rustic. So I'm just gonna half these unless they're like ginormous. This one's a little big, I might quarter that one. And then, you know, if you don't like mushrooms, again, I like mushrooms. I think they're mushrooms and wine and tarragon. All these flavors just go so well together. If you have a kid or a husband or somebody that just doesn't like them, don't put them in. I spoon up the food, so if I have a kid that doesn't like it, I just push them to the side and their plate doesn't get any, and they're not any wiser. But mushrooms have a nice meaty taste to them. They go really well with beef. So I just think it's like a really natural pairing to put mushrooms together with beef. Okay. Usually have this all prepped so you guys don't have to sit and watch me cut, but I'm lucky I'm doing a video today, you guys. I'm tuckered. Okay, so we got those in there, looking beautiful. I'm just gonna give that a minute, let those flavors kind of get together. I'm not seasoning it yet, I'm just kind of waiting. My meat is already seasoned, and I am gonna season my vegetables, and I'm just kind of letting them, you know, sometimes when you salt mushrooms, they release too much liquid right off the bat. At least that's my, you know, my feeling about it. So I'm just gonna let these kind of cook down a little bit, and then I'm gonna start building all the flavors. So fresh herbs, something I'm really, I grow them right outside my kitchen. I feel very strongly about fresh herbs. If you don't like them or you don't have them, that's fine. You know, I pick the stems off and I'm just gonna roll them up into like a little package, and I'm just gonna kind of cut through them. Okay, tarragon, parsley, rosemary, and thyme. Okay, I'm just gonna add some nice flavor in here. All right, I'm gonna dump that in there. And it's gonna be so fragrant. Lovely. All right. Time to add all the veggies in. So what I have is I have about a pound of small potatoes. Again, I like to keep the skins on. I wash them really well and I cut them into smaller chunks. About 3 stalks of celery. If you don't like celery, I get it, a lot of people don't, but cut them pretty small. They add a nice level of flavor. You want them in there. And I did about 5 carrots. And again, I don't want my carrots to be real small, so I just cut them in rustic chunks. Nothing too perfect, okay? It's all in there. Now I'm going to start seasoning with some kosher salt. Potatoes need a lot of salt, so I'm probably doing a good 2 tablespoons-ish, and you can always adjust it. I'm going to do some pepper. I like black cracked pepper, but my pepper thing's being weird, so. And I like a lot. I would say I'm doing at least a good 1.5 teaspoons of that black pepper. I'm gonna add more of this French onion soup. Doesn't want to go in. Come on. And then I'm gonna add just a little bit more red wine. Probably in totality, 1.5 cups to 2 cups of wine. Okay, now I want some umami. I want that flavor where you just go, wow. Worcestershire, this is your umami, okay? So I'm gonna do about 4 or 5 dashes of that in there. I'm gonna drop a couple bay leaves, 2 to 3 bay leaves. I'm getting down on the nitty gritty here. I'm gonna do 3. And again, if you have a big bay leaf, maybe you only need 2, maybe you just need 1. These were small, so I'm gonna do 3. And tomato paste. I like to buy this type of tomato paste. It's in a tube, and that way you don't have to open up a can every time you need tomato paste. Totally up to you. I want about at least 2 tablespoons, two heaping tablespoons worth of tomato paste. So that looks like that'll be the rest of this tube. That wasn't on, it's out there. Okay. So this is just really has a lot of flavor. I've got my herbs in there. I've got all my aromatics. I've got carrots, potatoes, mushrooms, onion, celery, red wine. I'm going to put a little bit of bone broth in there, beef stock. Okay, you can do whatever you like. I really want it to be rich. And I'm just going to do maybe 1/4 of a cup or so, because I've got the French onion soup in there. And now I'm going to return my meat. And guys, this is your beef stew. Okay, you're going to cover this. You're going to let this cook for about 1.5 hours on like medium simmer, you know. And then when you're done, when it looks like it's pork tender and everything's reduced down, I like to add frozen peas into I feel like it just needs frozen peas, and of course I finish it with fresh parsley. If the sauce is too liquidy, you can strain out the liquid and separate it, and then you can thicken it up with, again, a slurry, if you know how to do that, where you just add a little bit of your sauce to some flour, and thicken it up. I am gonna add about a tablespoon of butter to this before I put the lid on. I think the butter is really a nice accompaniment to the beef. So everything's better with butter, right? Let me get a clean knife. And then I'm just gonna do, actually I'm gonna do about 2 tablespoons of butter. Just put a nice generous pat on top, okay? And that'll melt and just everything will come together. You can re-season this again as you know, as it's cooking, and taste it. Make sure your meat is, you know, cooked before you're tasting it. But this makes an amazing dish. Great on a hot or on a cold night to have that hot bowl of stew. It's so comforting. Some crusty bread if you're doing bread. If you're not, a nice green salad. It's nourishing. It tastes delicious, and it keeps really well. You could also take this mixture if you wanted to, and you could make beef pot pies with the leftovers. So we can talk about that if you want some info on that. So I'm gonna cover it, and I'm gonna come back in an hour and a half, and my dinner is gonna be done, and it's gonna be fabulous. I need a shower, I need to relax, I need a hot toddy. Hope you guys have a great evening. Again, drop me a message below if you need a swap out for one of the ingredients that I gave you that you didn't like, or you're not sure how to do something. But this is a great recipe. If you need more information, again, it's red wine, about a cup, cup and a half, maybe 2, depends on how drunken you want your, again, alcohol cooks out, don't worry. Red wine, about 1 cup to 2 cups, and then you want to do a couple, maybe 2 to 3 cups of some other liquid. Beef broth, beef bone stock, French onion, whatever you want to do. Again, totally up to you guys. Worcestershire, thyme, rosemary, parsley, and tarragon. I love tarragon. I think it just goes great with beef. And then, of course, salt and pepper, tomato paste, and then all your aromatics. So don't forget, if you like the green peas at the end, I love them. I just feel like it's not beef stew unless it has the frozen. You put them at the last minute because you don't want them to be cooking and getting mush. So right before they're done, you take them straight from the freezer, drop them in the hot stew. Will just immediately bring them up to temp within a minute or 2, and it's ready to be served. And it's amazing, you guys. It's easy, it's a 1-pot meal, and it's nourishing. Okay, I did a video. It's been a few days, and I need some more tea. Okay, I'll talk to you guys later.